Well, Election Day less than a month away, and the New Jersey governor's race, one of the most closely watched in our area. In a new Suffolk University USA Today poll, Democrat Phil Murphy, he's leading the Republican, Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, by nearly 20 points. But about a quarter of the people asked, they are still undecided. Well, tonight at 9 p.m. on Fios 1 New Jersey, you can catch a one-hour special called New Jersey's Next Governor with Steve Adubato. And Mr. Adubato, he joins me now. Steve, good as always. And
great to be with you, Richard.
You a little surprised how the race is starting to shape up, especially the tone we saw in the debate here? She is not going quietly into the good night as Lieutenant Governor.
No, the Lieutenant Governor is firing on every cylinder. She's going after him. When we sat down with her for this special that's airing tonight right here, all she talked about was taxes. Phil Murphy's going to tax you out of your house. He's the only one who's going to be able to afford New Jersey after he raised his taxes. That was her message. But you know, as that was a couple weeks ago when we taped it, the reality is she's hitting him on the sanctuary state thing, and whether he's soft on illegal immigration, and hitting him on the Harvey Weinstein thing because he was raising money for the National Democratic Party. So the point I'm making, Rich, is that yes, I think this is his race to lose. New Jersey is a very blue state. You know better than anyone else. But you never know with these highly emotional, visceral issues whether they can catch fire and it could turn this race around. You don't know.
And I've seen some of the spots she's been running, and I think they're pretty effective. Now, speaking of your conversation with Lieutenant Governor, here's a clip of it, and as you mentioned, it has to do with taxes.
This election, Steve, is going to be a referendum on taxes. And if anybody
property
thinks
taxes, income taxes,
taxes. Phil Murphy has promised an additional $75 billion worth of spending. We added it up. It's on our website, kim4nj.com. And just the other day, he added another 200 or 400 million because of his plan for free college, community college education. Right. It keeps going up and up and up. He's admitted to $1 billion worth of additional taxes. That's one promise I think he'll keep.
In fact, I saw in the spot that she continually uses with our friend Michael Ahrens in an interview, he said he wasn't opposed to raising taxes. Is that resonating, or are people just saying, you know, for the most part, do the polls reflect, even though I think it'll be a little tighter than the number that we hear, that they kind of at this point have just got Christie fatigue and everyone attached to it, so be it?
You know, Richard, this whole question of taxes, Phil Murphy, there's no way he can have a meaningful, serious discussion about what he wants to do in terms of free college education on the county and community college level, wanting to fully fund the education formula, state funding to local public schools.
Yeah.
You need revenue, plus the pension issue, which you'll set up that clip in just a second, where him talking about the public employee pensions. Lay off the public employees. We've got to come up with our money on the state end. I asked him, where's the money coming from? He was straight up. He said, look, we're going to have to raise taxes on the wealthiest. And I said, what's the level? And he said, $1 million and up. I think the judgment there is, A, you need money. And by the way, that's not going to be enough money by itself. No. But how many millionaires are we talking about? And does that hurt me politically? And then the follow-up question is obvious. What about if you lose those, those people who with a lot of money and they move to Florida or establish residence? It gets complicated. The politics is one thing. The governing is another. And I think he's trying to figure out both. She's just trying to figure out how to close this gap.
Well, you mentioned pensions. It's been a huge issue. It's bedeviled previous administrations, certainly the current one right now as well. You pressed the issue with the ambassador, and here's that part of the interview.
The state's been kicking this can down the road for going on 20 years, since the 1990s, and the cumulative impact is now almost overwhelming. So at some point, you got to say, stop, enough. We're good for our word. We will pay and stand up for our obligations. I don't think you get there next Monday, but you have to show transparently and deliberately you're going to get there sooner than later and own up to our end of the bargain.
As a candidate, what I was struck with was, you hear him, he talks about his blue-collar roots here. He's a Jersey guy. On the flip side, you know, he's got a lot of zeros at the end of his bank account. He's an ambassador and all the rest.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not that there's anything wrong with that. Has he been able to navigate that, being a rich guy with humble beginnings?
You know, first of all, it's true. I think Phil Murphy, I know Phil Murphy came from humble beginnings. But he made a lot of money at Goldman Sachs. He was smart. Okay, fine. But the reality is, he comes into a town hall meeting, Rich, right away. Sleeves comes up, come up, roll him up. He's out there, ties all over the place, right? You and I would never anchor a show like that. But the reality is, he's trying to connect with people. And the truth is, my gut tells me he likes people. He wants to connect with people. I don't think he's this John Corzine clone because he's much more personable and engaging. But the reality is, if people say, you know what, I mean, look, Donald Trump, as much as I have problems with him politically and the way he conducts himself, I don't think a lot of people were turned off by, like, I'm this really rich guy. It's how you earn your money. Was it straight up and honest? And frankly, it helped him get elected in the primary. I'm talking about the ambassador. Right now, he's accepting public funding. So now he's saying, look, I did that for the primary. I don't want to do that now. I want to accept the public financing. It's a constant juggling act. Yeah, I'm this rich guy, but I get you. The fact is, Kim Guadagno is still more middle class. There's no other way to say it.
Speaking of Kim Guadagno, you mentioned before in a debate that had more fireworks than some expected, she went after on a litany of issues, Mr. Murphy, including Harvey Weinstein. And we'll show that exchange. I honestly thought the ambassador was like, where are you going with this? Let's take a look.
I want to call Phil Murphy a coward. Phil Murphy didn't start to talk about Harvey Weinstein until after my campaign today listed the tens of thousands of dollars that he raised as a part of his position as a finance chair for the DNC.
I didn't ask for and I didn't get one dime from this guy. What he's done is completely outrageous and heinous.
Maybe I've been at this too long, but that seemed a little desperate. I think that seemed a little desperate on her part. What, the guy's looking like, wait a minute.
Rich, she's 20 points behind.
I guess, but I mean, talk about a Hail Mary.
It is a Hail Mary, and what she's counting on is a groundswell of women and others who are sensitive, you know, to what this creep Harvey Weinstein has apparently done over many, many years. And she's trying to imply, hey, Ambassador, you knew about it, and you were the head of the finance committee of the Democratic Party, and he gave you, I don't know, 20, 30 grand, whatever the number was. Now, if he knew and took the money, that's horrible. If he didn't, and then he says, you know what, that money should be sent back, okay, fine. But then the Clintons have to send the money back, and Obama sends the money back. I mean, Harvey Weinstein has been an established Democratic fundraiser for 20 or 30 years.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't condone any of it, but if anyone knew and took the money, they've got a problem. There's no evidence that Ambassador Murphy knew any of that.
No, and there's ongoing questions, including the investigation of Mr. Weinstein, even in Manhattan DA's office. But coming back to politics for a second, listen, Kim Guadagno, name recognition issue, but the biggest issue she has is what she's been doing for the last couple terms in terms of who she's been working with or for, namely Governor Christie. And we all know his approval or disapproval numbers in New Jersey. Well, Mr. Murphy made Christie an issue time after time in the debate.
Chris Christie's record is your record, Lieutenant Governor. You've been beside him and with him every step of the way. We can't deny that.
Now, the inconvenient truth for Phil is that Chris Christie is not on the ballot in November. I am.
Good line.
It is a good line.
I don't think it'll help though, because either she's got to napalm her boss, or I mean, just to say, you know, that's his record. I just worked for the guy, you know.
So, here's my view of this. Mike Pence, I've got to believe many times, I'm not in the White House, I don't have the best sources there, but I've got to believe, Richard, that there are a ton of times where he's saying, this guy's, are you kidding me? Mr. President, if I could be honest with you, this is crazy. It makes no sense. And by the way, why are you calling people names, and why are you creating these issues that are not relevant to solving problems? Now, I hope he does that privately. You're never going to see him do it publicly, and frankly, I think it's unfair to the Lieutenant Governor to expect that while she was Lieutenant Governor actively, that she was going to criticize the governor. I don't know the relationship well enough to know whether she challenged him, because I hope that happened, and it should. The reality is she can't run away from the negatives of the Christie administration, Bridgegate and other issues, while taking some of the credit for some job creation. There were downgrades in the bond rating, as you well know. This is not one she's going to win. So I think if she tries
to that point, if we already acknowledged she threw a Hail Mary with the Weinstein, why not at this point, since he's doing nothing to further her campaign? He even said he wasn't even going to watch the debate. Christie, I'm talking about. Why doesn't she go after her boss? If he's doing nothing for her other than dragging her down, right? At this point, why doesn't she say, you know what? He's not only not on the ballot, but if he was, I wouldn't vote for him because I believe in a better New Jersey.
On some level, I think it's personal. I think there's a personal relationship there, and I'm not saying they're the closest. What I'm saying, Rich, is that I think it's dangerous for her to do that because there are still some hardcore Republicans who believe in Chris Christie. There are others who believe that, while he's had a lot of problems, that for her to do that would be really abandoning the Republican Party as well. So I got to tell you, I think she's got a very difficult issue. She's not going to trash the governor. She's going to disagree with him on the expansion or the renovation of the State House or disagree with him on one issue or another, on one-offs. She will not trash this governor because if she does, I also believe, forget about Chris Christie, I think long term she thinks she doesn't have a future because she'll be seen as a turncoat to the Republican Party.
Well, it's fascinating issues in New Jersey.
Not an easy position
Steve
to be in.
knows the numbers better than anybody, and whoever the next governor is, they have challenges. That'll be part of this conversation that you can catch tonight. Again, New Jersey's next governor is the program. Steve Adubato, obviously the host and the interview for both of them. It's at 9 p.m. tonight on Fios 1 New Jersey. Steve, as always, great job. Thank you. And I look forward to the program. All right, coming up next, everybody, we'll go across the river and take a look at some races in New York, including one for Westchester County Executive. Democrat George Latimer trying to take Republicans Rob Astorino's job, and the feisty debate for New York mayor that turned from sometimes contentious to downright bizarre. We'll have all of that after this.